There's a sound of police. There's a sound of police. Yo, do not hang out with the losers.
That footage that we just saw, that was guys just not watching the ball, but not sprinting back in transition. You got to build a wall, and it starts with the right habits every single day.
That free throw, first Laker point in 3 minutes. Bruce Brown is checked in.
You know that Illuminati level where they pay like $9 grand for fucking eggs? You know, and then afterwards you go up and shake his hand and say, oh, you want to put a pipeline through a teepee, right? And he lets it happen because you gave him all this money for eggs, right?
Titans of industry.
Yeah, and then afterwards, then they all go out and they do the speech circuit, and that's how they all make money. They go back to the guys that bought the eggs 8 years earlier, right? And they give their stupid speeches, right? As the people in the crowd are eating like a deep-fried eagle, right? They don't care about America. And no, that's what kills me about Obama. All this stuff they're showing him like he's this hero, you know what I mean? Every like picture of him now, he's always like kayaking, you know? Looks like an erectile dysfunction ad. You know, like this guy didn't do, like he didn't do all these drone bombings. Like, were those terrorists? Were they playing hacky sack? I don't know. You want some soft shell crab? You know, like he wasn't part of that? Sorry, so this is why I don't talk politics, because I'm into conspiracy theory, man.
Are you really?
I'm into it, yeah.
How deep? Alex Jones deep, or?
I think that whoever runs this is a robot and didn't like map out what human beings are shaped like, which is why they sort of had an idea of what chairs were, and that's what they. So this show is making me paranoid. No, I don't do like that. The moon is made out of cheese or anything like that. I just think people are inherently evil, and if they get the opportunity to take more, they're gonna do it. And I think that's what's going on.
No, don't pay attention to politics because it's not. There's nothing that you.
I
really
tried to watch that guy testify today. That was one of the most boring things I've ever seen in my life. It's like, why don't they just say it? Like, did the Russians fuck with the election? They don't. They go, oh, it's September 6th. 11 a.m. Well, I would just I think they do that on purpose so no one pays attention. And somewhere in they sort of whisper it like 9 hours in. Did the Russians fuck with them? Oh, okay. And then they just sort of plot through. Was that what it was about? Wasn't it about that?
Something like that.
The head of the FBI or something?
Yeah, James Comey, the former director of the FBI.
I just know he's 6'8", which was hilarious.
Humongous.
I just pictured him in the police academy, like when he had to go over that giant wall, him just like stepping over it. And he had to buy like one of those custom sweatshirts.
Huge legs.
Yeah, at some point, aren't you too tall to be a cop? You can't be on undercover. There's his whole head sticking out of the car. What's with that 7-foot guy over there who keeps following us around? I'm starting to feel like you can't blend in at 6'8", right?
Can't do a stakeout at all.
No.
So going back to the special, you said that you felt like it was a mistake because you shouldn't cover politics. Does that mean that there's no politics in the future of any of your specials at all?
I don't know. I might. If something like the bit I'm doing now is I talk about Hillary because I'm like fascinated not by who wins, it's like by who loses. Just the level of fame that you had, everybody caring, and there's news trucks and all that, and all of a sudden the second you lose, as you're giving your speech, like, we fought a good fight, and they're like wrapping up wire, and all the vans are driving away. It's like you were in sync and you weren't Justin Timberlake, so then you got to wait for his movie career to dip so you can do a cruise or some shit. It just fascinates me that dream didn't come true, and she's married to a guy where it did come true, and they got to be in the same house. And the tension of that, it's just got to be excruciating.
He's arguably one of the reasons that you might have lost as well.
Yeah, because she didn't involve him. Yeah. That's like when the Rams didn't give the ball to Marshall Faulk. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? This guy's he's a beast. He had the job for 8 years. He got impeached. They still couldn't kick him out. He fucks around all the time, and women still love him. I mean, the guy he's like bulletproof. You already saw Al Gore not use him and lose. Why would you do that again? Stupid move. Stupid move.
About to get drafted, boy.
Yeah, and then they tried to blame racist white people. That was the dumbest theory ever. It's like, where were all those racists the last two elections
Come on,
when they could have
LeBron.
voted against a black guy? They were fine with that. But this white woman is going to take my jet skis, right?
Come on,
I
man.
love this dude texting for the entire interview. It's just
Busted.
trying to keep the attentions on millennials. It's like impossible. Look at him. He's already got the chains. He's probably got his own record label. He's like making deals as we speak. He's got championship rings on. I don't know what you're doing, dude, but I want your life, man. You're
Boy,
crushing
gonna
it.
foul.
So are you in the
I
process?
cannot get comfortable in this fucking chair. This is just like one of the worst things. This should be like in a museum, is like the prototype. This is what, this was the awful level of comfort.
This is the worst iced tea I've ever had.
His parents hired me to bring him out of his shell before college.
You can go skinny dipping.
What about sharks? I'm very concerned about that.
Get in here right now!
How's the kid working out?
I want to talk to you real quick about who runs America. Who do you think runs America right now? You had to go, like, who is in charge? Who's calling the shots right now?
Here's who runs these powerful interlocking families that have what they call Royal Roundtable groups. The British set these up. The Royal Institute of International Affairs, that became a CFR here. They have their own councils in Europe. And the same 20 or 30 guys all then sit on the boards of Bilderberg, CFR, Trilateral Commission, and then they put out policies that all the other corporations and banks have to follow, or they get broken up, they get attacked. So there's a global corporate mafia that are mainly scientific dictators who see themselves as technocrats who want to bring in a one world government where they track everything you do to then control the population and bring in this future tyranny. It's going to be a post-human world where they eliminate all humans. They believe their god Lucifer tells them they have to kill everyone after the world government's established, and then they will merge with Silicon and become a god. But they have to merge with this god that then comes and collects different civilizations. And the head of the Illuminati at the time was Arthur C. Clarke. So he wrote Childhood's End. That's an allegory for the actual plan transmitted to them interdimensionally by Lucifer.
Now, when you bring up Lucifer, people might think you're nuts, but and
Listen,
no, hold on. No. I'm gonna back you up here. I'm gonna back you up here. Albert Pike wrote the Freemason Bible, right?
Hold on, has anyone ever seen it?
Let me finish this. Let me fucking finish this.
Albert Pike wrote it.
Let me finish this.
Okay.
I'm not ignoring you.
Fuck. Albert Pike wrote the Freemason Bible, right? Like 1870s or something like that, correct?
Right after the Civil War.
Right. And in there, he says that Lucifer is the Freemason god.
Lucifer is God.
Now, you might think, has anybody read that? Have you seen it? Well, we had Pat Miletich, who's a former UFC fighter. He's in the Hall of
See in the Hall of Fame. The world's gonna know your name. Tick tock on the clock until we see the sunlight. Till we see the sunlight. Tick tock.
You're doing the full cup?
You don't have to go by the book.
You're doing the full cup?
You don't have to go by the book with every situation in your life.
The menu says medium though, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
but I'm telling you this way. This is how I'm telling you.
Well then.
I told you that way.
What the damn white people doing? Oh, fuck off.
The police were called on a group of kids for being too loud at a park. However, instead of punishing them, they told them they could stay if
Here's proof that no.
Yo, what LeBron doodle? How about that doodle? What LeBron doodle ain't gonna get a woo?
he's pretending to be a woman.
Yeah, but that conversation is going to be really complicated.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, but isn't
We
it
live in a
like-
crazy world, son. There's a lot of crazy
always
people.
lived in a crazy world, okay?
It's getting crazier.
No,
There's
America's
no
at, I think
denying.
America's at all-time high craziness.
Yeah,
right
we're
now.
at like peak
If you think
crazy.
that we're at an all-time high, it just goes to show how good the country is. That the biggest problem you have are who's going into whose bathroom. Okay, like there are countries that are at war right now. There are multiple countries experiencing genocides right now, and there are tons of horrible problems around the world.
Yeah, but
if
that's
your
like-
biggest issue is who's
It's
going
not-
into the
it's-
bathroom that has a
that's-
dick or not,
it's not
I think
the-
you're doing okay.
That's not the biggest issue.
That's
What's
your
the
own
biggest
country.
issue?
They gonna
issue?
shoot
No, let's take it in-
one
What's the biggest
pop
issue in
out.
America? That's totally beyond.
Oh,
Homelessness
Jam.
on the West
curious.
Coast is an
Jamal.
extreme issue. That would be something that I
Jamal,
would consider
go
an extreme
It's a big
Jamal.
issue.
This is an
It's
issue
a big issue.
regardless. This is
It's a
an issue
problem.
regardless, and you're out here saying, "Oh, there's
Oh,
wars
you
being
about to
fought."
get
Well, that's not what's
benched.
going on here.
Sure. Well, there are kind of
Well,
wars.
yeah, there
not
are
yet.
wars
When
being
I'm-
fought here,
Sure,
but in
I'm just
this
saying that if you want to have a conversation about the bathroom, okay, I think it's valid to say I feel a little bit uncomfortable if there are people that clearly look like a man entering the bathroom, and there's a lot of trans people that agree with that too. I think that's a fine conversation, but when it goes into this very weird world of like, I think they're going to do these essays and these like all this stuff, like I don't think sexual assault.
Get your
I don't think that, like
shoes
that's a
out.
legitimate concern.
Sure,
I think
but
that's
I
something
think
people do.
bathroom aside, I think it's
Yes.
the principle of it. I think the discussion is safety and whatnot. I think the bathroom has little to do with it. I think
The
it's just a
bathroom is
And
where I
again,
go
you're
poo-poo.
like
It's the
saying
principle of
you're
it.
using but then you're agreeing with me.
It's a
I don't
principle
disagree.
of it.
Yeah, if you want to
Well, I
argue the
never said
principle,
I
you can argue the
disagree.
principle.
Well, I'm just
but don't
laying it out there.
fixate on like essays in the bathroom for trans
Well,
people.
no, you were the one who was fixating on
I think we should
essays in the
redirect.
bathroom.
We're getting lost in the weeds.
I want
We're
to
getting
come
lost in the
back. I
weeds.
want to come back to. By the way, can I have everyone just scoot their cups into the table a little bit?
You were
OCD over here.
fixating on essays in the bathroom for the
I
past
think
5
we
years.
should
We're
redirect.
gonna let's move on
Let's
from
redirect the
that.
conversation.
So initially, what I was asking you two is, when you contacted me, you said you both were feminists, and you kind of described a little bit about what that means. I suppose my question is, what do you believe in as a feminist, and chiefly, do you believe in the patriarchy theory?
Yes, I believe in the patriarchy. I believe that there is like historical examples of the United States being a patriarchy, and I still think that there are certain ways where it currently exists. I think, interestingly enough, I think in some ways you guys are actually pushing against that when you guys are talking against promiscuity in men, because I think historically it's been accepted this idea that like, oh, you know, if a man sleeps around, he's just a player, he's just being the alpha. And that's a patriarchal notion. So I actually agree with you guys in the sense that like, hey, you know what, like sleeping around men or women, like that's not necessarily a good idea. But yes, I do believe that like in the general patriarchy, and that there are still like examples of it currently going on.
Okay. Do you think we live in a patriarchy?
Yes, I do. And
That's
I think
why
like
it's
building
awesome.
off of like
Real.
I think the question that you asked me was like
don't think we
more
have enough
related to what my
patriarchy.
definition of feminism is.
Mm.
I gave it to you a bit earlier, but I also like to explain it to people as feminism really is just like a neutral tool and way of analyzing and understanding the world around us and looking at it through gender relations or sex relations. You can arrive at conservative conclusions or like liberal left-leaning conclusions through it. There's many examples of conservative feminists, rad femmes, TERFs, third wave feminists. Like all of these groups are kind of at odds with each other. Yeah, they broadly fall under like we advocate for women's rights, but the way that they decide to go about it is completely different. So there's not one coherent definition of like this feminist ideology guides this group of women or people, because really anybody can claim to be a feminist or employ feminism.
Sure.
And I just feel like it is a useful tool for anybody to use, because wouldn't you agree that the lives of men and women are so different that to analyze them through that structure is often interesting and insightful?
So you think feminism is a useful tool?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and just really quick, just to bring you two into it, I don't know if you guys identify as feminist, Destiny.
yeah, I imagine
Consider
so.
yourself
Yeah.
feminist? Okay. So
I think it's to be clear, that term has become so broad that it's kind of like meaningless, right?
Sure.
Like
Sure.
like one way
If
of
your
fighting for equity
metro
is
don't
feminists
trust
would
you,
consider,
gay or
any kind
what?
of, like structural barriers that women face entering like certain fields of education should be removed. But other people might argue that like
Do those even exist?
They're
most
they
of
have
them
a
at this
better
point-
chance of getting accepted usually when you're a woman.
Sure, most of the ones that exist now are probably like cultural in nature, and a lot of those I think have been largely eroded, probably especially over the past like 10 or 20 years.
Yeah.
But then there are other feminists that will push for way more radical stuff, depending on where you want to go on the political spectrum. So it just kind of depends on what you're
sure. And just so we all agree on definitions here, what is the patriarchy?
The patriarchy is basically this idea that there has been like this system of oppression that mostly benefits men and is in the detriment of women. Now, the patriarchy also negatively affects men. A lot of people have this misconception that's like, oh, the patriarchy like only benefits men, like men aren't hurt by it. No, there are clear examples of ways that men are hurt by the patriarchy. But this idea that it basically usually favors men or puts them on top to the detriment of women, generally speaking.
Can you give some examples of how men have been like boosted ahead and women have been like detrimentally damaged due to the patriarchy?
How men have been detrimentally damaged?
No, how your original point was women are damaged to put men up in the patriarchy. Do you have some examples?
Yes, and I think this is kind of a unique space because every other red pill space I've been in has had this idea that like men should like continue like sleeping around and trying to like, you know, like deflower women and like not marry them and just like, you know, like fuck around, have fun. And continuously basically like if women decide to like follow that lead, oh, they're stupid whores, they're like dumb bitches, like, you know, they don't know what the fuck they're doing, like, you know, they should just like shut the fuck up and go away, right? And I feel like that's a very clear example of like these men reap the benefits of sex while simultaneously looking down on the woman that they're reaping those benefits from.
How's that related to patriarchy?
Yeah, how's that to a woman's detriment? Like, guys aren't going out with guns and putting them to women's head. Like, you better fucking have sex with me. Like, they're out here getting it in on their own.
Well, it's detrimental to women because when it comes to things like, oh, like the workforce, or when it comes to being taken seriously, it's like voicing their opinions, their ideas, trying to break into like certain fields. Now they're just, instead of actually viewing the woman as a whole human being, they're judged only on the basis of.
There's no way. Hold on. There's no logical connection
To the
there.
advantage of women, largely though.
No, hold on. You just said that like woman sleeping around is directly related to her getting a job. That's the kind of logic you just made.
If I am trying to, and this is like,
is body count on
Hey,
resumes
can
nowadays?
Can I please finish?
Am I missed out on that?
Let her finish,
Go ahead.
bro.
Go ahead.
Okay, if I am trying to apply to a professional
Let me
job,
save you my
and
language.
let's say I made the mistake of having OnlyFans or something in the past, and somebody sends that to like my employer, or if somebody's like, oh, you know, like the way that she dresses, or she gives off like slut vibes or whatever, people might see that as like, oh, like unprofessional, and she might be even like the smart, let's say she's extremely smart, intelligent, you know, has multiple degrees, whatever. Because of those mistakes in the past, now it's going to be really hard for her to be taken seriously in a professional sense.
Sounds like the consequences of your own
Wait,
actions.
that's
like the opposite of
yeah,
true.
wait. So wait. Like, how would a guy not experience the exact same degradation if he had an OnlyFans? And they're like, oh, this guy used to do like feet milling. I don't know what the fuck they do, but you know, and that was sent to an employer. How would that like, you know?
Well, the perception.
Wait, hold on. How would that like unequally affect the man in a negative way, the same way it would affect the woman in a negative way? Because using that as an example to prove that men are using the patriarchy to keep women down, so that example doesn't hold up because it holds up to both sides of the sexes.
Well, generally speaking, when a man sleeps around a lot, and we can even go to Fresh and Fit, we can go to all these other red pill spaces, they are claimed to be high value men. Like, they are claimed to be like these men who are, you know, like all the men want to be like them, like, oh, you should continue sleeping around, look at all these strategies. I am very appreciative that right now that this space doesn't agree with that. But the truth of the matter is that in all these other spaces promoting the red pill, they say the complete opposite. They say men should sleep around a lot. That's good for that.
There's no sense. So you're trying to say like a guy could be like, hey, I want to be a doctor, and let me show you these 30 fucking sluts from Miami I fucked. And that's not going to benefit.
I'm like so charismatic and so influential. I can convince like 30 women to sleep with me.
Are you saying that
I'm
matriarchy
so cool.
would be better? Are you
Does
saying
that even
that
make any sense?
Are you acting like if
are you
Wait. I think
society
the gist
founded
of what
on-
she's saying is that there tends to be greater social repercussions for women that have engaged
The
in
two sexes.
sexuality
Well,
openly.
If you take if you take an OnlyFans to your job application, like, look, I want to be this fucking X-ray
I'm not saying
tech,
put it in your
but I also
resume.
sucked like 30 dudes' dicks.
I
on
mean, maybe
fucking
10 years
OnlyFans.
ago, but we're neglecting that the people who staff HR departments are overwhelmingly like these girl boss
This
types
is an
who would probably
anecdote,
be
but I
empowered by
watched a
things like that.
documentary called Life After Porn, and they analyzed the differences between male porn stars and talent after they left the industry and female porn stars after they left the industry. And the women, overwhelmingly in that documentary, were socially ostracized and ended up getting back into the industry, whereas the men were able to.
I would argue that that's not actually unfair because there are objective
I never said it was unfair. I'm
differences
literally
between
just
male
saying
and
that
female
that was the case,
sexuality.
and that was what the documentary
I mean,
showed.
all you have
Okay,
to
hold
do-
on. Yo, hold on. So, I mean, but if you look at most adult content, oftentimes there's always a female name, but half the time you don't even see the male, you don't know the male actor.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's differences on that level, but I would suspect, going back to your point, I would suspect if, you take two people, a woman, a man, they both did adult content, they're trying to get a job, I think it's going to kind of reflect poorly on both of them if it's like a job that requires some sort of decorum or seriousness.
I understand what you're saying, and you're basically saying, oh, there's a general stigma against sex work, which is true.
But is that
even
the
if
best?
we take,
That's the one example you go to when I'm asking about the patriarchy.
We're asking how the
That's a
patriarchy
fairly
is-
You gave me, you asked for one example, and I gave you one example.
Those are bad examples.
Can I take a step of this? Okay. I think when people talk about the patriarchy, in the broadest of sense, what we're really saying is that historically speaking, men have kind of been granted all of the autonomy in directing society, and women are, even though in some ways they're benefiting from the patriarchy, they're kind of like the subjects of men. So men exist to make decisions financially. They're the leaders of business. They're the leaders of banks. Men exist to make decisions about wars and the state of the country. They're the head of the political systems. They're our presidents. They're our congressmen. And men are the ones making decisions about how women live their lives. They're the head of the household. They're the ones working jobs predominantly, so they're choosing where people live. So when people criticize the patriarchy, in some ways the patriarchy benefits and hurts men. In some ways the patriarchy benefits and hurts women. But I think what people are generally looking at is the autonomous aspect. That in patriarchy, even if you are benefited and hurt a bit as a man, ultimately you have a lot of autonomy. You've got a lot of different ways that you can decide to live your life. Some of these come out in good ways, like you can have jobs, you can be single, you can do whatever. Some of these come out in bad ways. You're more likely to join the military or work really shitty jobs. And then same thing with women. There are ways that it can benefit you or hurt you. It can benefit you in that you don't have to work. You can stay home and take care of a kid. It can hurt you in that you're subjugated to a pretty narrow set of roles. But the main issue is that feminists would argue that in a patriarchal system, the man has a much wider range to express his desires and how he wants to exist in the world, whereas women are kind of like, you have to do this one thing, otherwise you're going to be heavily socially or sometimes even legally ostracized for it.
Well,
I think it's like the broadest argument.
I disagree with you a little bit there on your last point. I think actually if you look at kind of the options that women have, I think they have more options than do men. For example, in terms of partnering up with a woman, I would say men overwhelmingly, women have kind of two choices. They can find a man who's prepared to provide for them. They can be the stay-at-home. Not all women are going to be able to secure that option, but it's there for some women. Or
to be clear, I'm just saying historically, this like today, as society exists today is a lot different than it was in the 1800s, right? I'm just saying historically when we talk about patriarchy, because as it exists today, a lot of what is quote unquote patriarchy is really we're talking about very nuanced social pressures and a little bit of litigation. So maybe around like abortion, but broadly speaking, like a lot of the issues related to women and having freedom in society have been ameliorated. Women can go to school, they can have jobs, they can exist on their own. Like largely speaking, they've got a lot more freedom now than they did even 50 years ago.
Well, sure.
Thanks largely and due to feminists.
Gotcha. And just to bring it back to you guys, I mean, my sense of the patriarchy, it's basically QAnon for feminists, but so it's like a conspiracy theory. But
wait, we got to continue to use the number one weakness of feminism, which is accountability. So you said that men are being lifted up and women are being put under men, and men are having like these gigantic leaps and bounds in today's modern society at the detriment of women.
I never said giant leaps and bounds. I said
well, you that's what the patriarchy is. It's just like this big phantom boogeyman that's here to oppress all women. So I just wanted you to clarify on your point, because you didn't give an example. Destiny had to jump in. So what's your example? Because you used OnlyFans on a
No, I didn't use OnlyFans. I was trying to use this. Okay, first of all, the general point I was trying to make is that if you find out a guy has slept with 30 women, a lot of people see that guy as like a player, as charismatic, etc., etc. If you find out a woman has slept with 30 men.
She's from the streets, or
okay, yeah,
I think
this is a very
but beyond that, I can give you
comes
other
from
examples.
the objective differences between male and female sexuality, not from a cultural stigma that has just been artificially imbued into us. There are objective differences between the decisions that women make in the so-called sexual marketplace and the decisions that men make in it, because women are the gatekeepers of sex.
Okay, can you explain to that, or I'm genuinely curious. I just want to understand like your logic and your thought process.
But hold on.
Still no example?
Hold on. Let me just. I just got to interrupt you really quick.
Still no example. I'm waiting.
I'll give you your example.
Hold on. Let me just interrupt you really quick here. I feel fucking terrible having the straw man for a feminist, but like you keep going back to this body count thing. I'm anti-feminist, but I'm familiar with feminist arguments, like this whole men and women being judged differently because of on their sexuality is
My
like
boy.
such a low priority for feminists. I'm confused why that's your first thing that you're going
Because
to.
we were
I know it's
talking-
related to
Were you
dating,
saying,
but
were you saying
I mean,
that
you
was
asked
a
for one
symptom-
example. You didn't
were-
ask for like
were
the
you
most
saying,
important
all right, everybody,
example.
hold on. Were you saying that was a benefit for men of the patriarchy, that men are able to sexually take advantage of women?
Yes, but there also the reason why I brought that up is because since you guys kept repeating like this is a dating podcast, like relationships, that was one of the first things that
Fair
my mind
enough.
went to. But I do have other examples of like patriarchal like structures.
Before we get to that, I find this very, very fascinating. So, are you acknowledging that men running through women, that's a bad thing?
Yes, but society as a whole doesn't seem to agree with my opinion.
Doesn't seem to agree with that. And you're saying men running through women, this is one of the negative aspects of patriarchy, and it's one of the things that men benefit from when it comes to patriarchy. Is that correct? Would you say? Framing?
Society as a whole views that as a benefit to men.
And is
That's
that-
what I'm
hold
saying.
on, hold on.
I have my personal opinion that's disagreeing with that. But in general, if we're talking about how society generally views a patriarchy, how society generally views women and men, society generally will prop up a man if he engages in that behavior.
Is that because of patriarchy, you're saying?
I do think that's an extension of patriarchy. This idea that like men are more capable, that men are, like stronger, and therefore like those actions are supposed to indicate like strength.
I have one thing really quick.
I'm trying to make a point.
What?
He's trying to make a point, goddammit. Let him make his point.
I've listened.
He's put his
I've
mic on the
listened
table.
for
He's leaning
20
forward.
minutes.
One thing.
I've listened for 20 minutes. Please
Just
go
one
ahead.
thing.
Oh my God.
Is the patriarchy stronger now, or was it stronger, say, 100 years ago?
Oh, it was stronger 100 years ago. I think we've made great advancements.
And
in
so you're
women's rights.
blaming, but the patriarchy was stronger, say, 100 years ago, but now in today's day and age, when it's ostensibly the weakest it's ever been, how can you pin?
So this is Ryan. Let me
is
take
that
it
where
from
you're
here.
gonna?
This is kind of he's leading to my point. Okay, you and I both agree that men running through women is detrimental to our society. Correct?
Yes.
The argument that I would make is in years past, when there were stronger patriarchal structures over society, there were decreased rates of men running through women because we had greater amounts of tradition in society. This whole sexual liberation thing that is intimately tied into feminism, I would say that feminism is largely to blame for so many women in our society getting run through, because earlier in the conversation, Destiny was making the point that nowadays we live in a society where a lot of women, both liberal and conservative alike, they want to go and build their careers and they want to go and enjoy their lives, and a big part of that enjoyment of their lives involves being sexually free in their 20s. That thing that you dislike, that is a fruit of feminism.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things historically that
Yo, this is
patriarchy
pop
protected
to
against,
three.
because traditionally speaking, it was a father's job to protect his daughter's virginity and her purity and all that kind of stuff. That's a good thing for society. This sexual liberation stuff that's burning women is a fruit of feminism.
That's a very sorry. Let me just respond to that quickly.
Right.
That's a very interesting point. However, when I look at historically examples of like what has happened between men and women's relationships, you still have structures of the patriarchy that still incentivize like men to like either sleep around or not face negative repercussions necessarily for sleeping around, until the advent of feminism also tried to help fight against that. So
that was
let
at
me
the
just
absolute
finish.
top of society, though, and
Wait,
a very
wait,
small
wait,
amount of men. It was nowhere near like it is today.
Okay, but the idea that like, oh, if a man cheats on you, it's the woman's fault. She was not a good enough wife. She was not like good enough, whatever.
Lakers.
Existed
Lakers.
for decades, right?
Lakers.
This idea that like, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, I think
Okay,
in
I just-
Christian patriarchy, infidelity in marriage
Jamal,
was
with
frowned
those
upon
halls.
It was frowned
More
upon
than
for
it is
everyone,
now.
but women before the advent of feminism weren't able to break away from those from that.
I just
Basically.
wanted to say
they
that-
were stuck in.
Let her
these-
finish her
yeah.
point, please,
Okay,
Nev.
yeah, sorry.
They were stuck in these cycles
6
where it was like,
point
okay,
guys.
my husband cheats on me, or my husband leaves me. He's an alcoholic. He's doing all this. Well, because there's no fault divorce, I'm stuck with him. I have to take this abuse. He could be physically abusive.
But those were situations with fault for divorce. That was grounds for divorce, abuse,
Yeah,
alcoholism.
but even
cheating.
then, the
even
idea
the
that
Catholic
you have
Church
to-
sees cheating as grounds for divorce.
Even
so
then,
you
the
had
idea that you have to go through this whole court process to prove that your husband actually did this stuff to you and that you didn't deserve it, right? Because those were the thoughts back in the day, that if your husband does anything to you, well, it's your fault because you weren't a good enough wife, you weren't a good enough mother, whatever. Did stop women from being able to be liberated or be able to get the rights that they deserved.
Kind of like what men have to go through nowadays with false rape accusations and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, nowadays the reasons for
Grape.
divorce aren't the things you've listed. It's literally just
Grape
women being
accusations.
Like, I
Grape.
feel vaguely
Grape.
unfulfilled
Sorry.
in
Sorry,
this relationship.
Can I just say, I think that you are actively
It's a great point, John.
perpetuating the patriarchy that you're cursing and blaming everything on by endorsing like OnlyFans and stuff, by saying
When did I ever endorse
well, just by
OnlyFans?
like promoting the stuff like
When did I promote it?
earlier.
When did I
Do
promote
it.
it
You
earlier?
started bringing OnlyFans into things as if like people
No,
would judge you
I
for
said.
it.
Well, I said like, yeah, women are judged for having OnlyFans. I
That
didn't
was
say
the most
OnlyFans is
niche
good.
example ever.
Should
like,
women not be
wait,
judged for?
I
You guys-
think-
Yeah, I don't fair. False rape accusations is a very niche example.
I think you're
fair
perpetuating.
play, fair play.
No.
But I mean, come on, Destiny, come
Also,
on.
you're
Hey,
strong
hey,
women.
hey,
Pulling
hey,
up
everybody,
OnlyFans in the job
everybody,
interview.
everybody, for the sake of Brian's channel, if we're going to talk about SA, let's use the word grape, okay?
So
That's
for
okay.
SA though, Destiny, come on, pulling up like, oh, we see you may have had an OnlyFans account.
No, but
That's
you're
a pretty-
strawmanning me. I used
Hey, that was
OnlyFans
my
as an example, but what I was trying to elaborate, or what
It's
I
so
was trying
bad
to
Destiny doesn't
illustrate,
defend
is
you.
that even without OnlyFans, if you find out, or a rumor or whatever, that a woman has slept around with 30 men, they're gonna look down on that woman. Forget
See,
OnlyFans, forget
naturally,
anything
it
else.
is more
Rightfully
feminist
so.
to hold women accountable for their actions and believe that they have full agency over their sexuality and hold them accountable when they've done things unwise with their sexuality.
And as a
that's a more
feminist-
feminist option
Hit the
than
bell
considering them to be just tiny, like
Yeah.
angel babies who
No,
deserve
and as
to be defended no matter what they do.
And as a feminist, I agree, but I also think we should hold men accountable for these
Well,
actions
who
as
do you-
well.
who do you But think you is- seem
Come
to
in,
think
Billy.
that women
Billy, come
shouldn't
in.
be judged
Hold
for
on.
having an
Let's let Billy.
OnlyFans.
Let's let Billy.
Wait,
go.
what? Sorry, can you repeat that?
You seem to think that women should not be judged for choosing to do porn.
I think it depends on the circumstance.
There is no
Absolutely.
circumstance
Okay.
where it's acceptable.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry,
hold
but
on.
there are
Hold
so
on,
many
hold on,
women
hold
who
on.
get into sex trafficking who start
Okay, that is
OnlyFans because
not-
they get the,
That
abusive.
is not the example that you gave us. You gave
Well,
us the
I was
example of a woman
okay.
with OnlyFans.
No, I was giving a general example of like, oh, the idea of when women are judged more harshly.
Women-
But if you want, I'm gonna elaborate now, or I'm gonna clarify now. That's just an example, right? There are. You asked, oh, do you think women should never be judged for OnlyFans? I never said that. I do think that there are certain scenarios where they
How
shouldn't
about
be
all
judged as
scenarios?
harshly.
Okay, all right,
How about
hold
all
on, hold on,
scenarios
hold on,
when
hold on.
they should-
For the
So
sake
you-
of conversation,
Let's
with
bring
all,
Billy
with all
into
due
it.
respect,
AIDS.
we could go around and around and around with this, but you have like kind of like every single answer you give, it's kind of qualified. Like in some cases this, but in other cases
Because
that.
life is
It's
not
almost
black
like
and
it's a
white.
nuanced discussion that's not going
Yeah,
to
I mean, you
trend
could
towards
you
yes,
can
no answers.
you can make every single thing nuanced is the point, but it's not fruitful for the overall
I think
discussion.
something
want to
is
hear.
more-
I want to hear what
wait,
Billy,
wait,
Billy was
let's let
waiting to
Billy
jump
come
in.
in.
Yo, who's the Asian chick in the
As
back?
who do you think is more at a disadvantage or more discriminated against in
I
today's
got a
society,
random
men
ass
or
Asian
women?
chick just wearing
Hey,
my
Neff, move your
fucking
mic.
You're gonna hate me for responding this, but what metric are you using? Like, what are you saying? Like, no, you guys are acting like I'm crazy.
No, I'm
and I
not.
understand
It's
the
just-
frustration.
We're not acting. You are
Really
crazy.
are crazy.
You are thinking with emotions right now. Just
Wait,
say
did you
your
even
I'm not
answer
acting-
her question?
I'm
Did she-
not
did she-
trying to
Billy,
disrespect
did
you
she
or act
answer
like
the
you're
question?
crazy. It's just whenever you answer a question, it's like every single thing has a million shades of gray, and I don't look at the world that way, and I think it overcomplicates literally everything.
So
beyond,
you're saying you look at the
beyond
world in
point
like
of how far it needs to
simplistic
be
black and
complicated.
white paradigms. You don't ever try to look at the shades of
I mean,
gray that
I'm
exist
the kind of
between.
person I believe in like objective truth, and like when it comes to the gender discussion, for example, I asked what is a woman, and it's like somebody who's born with an XX or XY chromosome. Like to me, a lot of things like that are very black and white, and I know that in some small instances there's shades of gray, but it's like when questions are directed.
I mean, when we were
towards this
talking
corner-
earlier about
when
like
questions
essay
are
and
directed,
bathrooms, we were
Yo,
like
let him
very
finish.
interested.
Let him finish.
When questions are directed to this side of the panel, with all due respect, it devolves into this like million shades of gray for literally everything, and the conversation, I feel like it's not fruitful for conversation. is my
So
point.
where during the job interview process do they ask you to bring up your OnlyFans history? Is it like the hiring manager? Is
You
it
know,
the
is
HR?
this
the level of
Like,
discourse
where-
that we're on?
Where at what
But
point
cool.
during the client
You know, I think
interaction
it's
does
always
that
background
happen?
checks that include your internet history, and if you choose to do OnlyFans, that's in your internet footprint forever. That is a choice that you made. That's the example that you brought up, and in your belief as a feminist, women have full agency over their sexuality since they've been liberated. It's only fair then to hold them accountable for making a decision.
Can
like
I say,
that.
OnlyFans aside, I personally would not advocate for employers to go looking to see how qualified the candidates are by the first thing that they're searching up after they see the name on the resume. Let's see if they have an OnlyFans account.
It comes up pretty quickly
And
when you look
wouldn't
at
just
somebody's
be
background
as part of their history any more than I think it's relevant for an employer to be like, let's look through their Facebook, let's look through their Twitter, through their
Those
YouTube.
things are relevant.
So
every employer is allowed to freely associate with who they want, but I would criticize any business person who thinks that it's prudent to spend their time scanning through candidates like Instagram and social media
internet
things.
history?
Well, yeah.
So wait.
Yeah, I think
Wait, you don't think it's prudent for employers?
Wait,
You don't think
time
it's
out.
prudent for
Caught that
employers
three,
to care about whether or not one of their employees.
Oh, you hit the three.
Wait, hold on.
Oh,
If I'm a
Depending on what the
CEO,
job
if I'm a
is, but
CEO,
generally speaking, I don't think it's prudent or like
if I'm,
employers'
let me
time
make
to
this
like
point real quick.
specifically comb through their prospective like applicants' internet history.
Okay,
in that way.
internet history and OnlyFans are two different things. okay?
OnlyFans can be part of your internet.
So if I'm a CEO
they
and I'm
do.
hiring somebody, let's say I'm hiring a salesperson to close high-ticket deals and they're talking with important people on a daily basis, and I'm
Right.
sending that salesperson to go speak with these people, and if any of those people that they speak to look up that person's name and they find pornography of them all over the internet, obviously they're going to take me and my company far less seriously if I have somebody working like that for me. How can you say that that's not
It's just
important?
like, oh, well, they shouldn't. They
that's-
shouldn't.
No,
think
I
that
said
that
every employer
is
and
bad.
business
Yeah,
owner
that's
is allowed to
and it's
freely
like-
associate and hire whoever they think so. If they really think that that's at odds with their company's profits, then
And
don't hire that
okay, and that's
candidate.
how
But
you
I
end
would
up-
be very suspect as to whether or not that's actually
So
the
then
case.
wait a
I know
minute,
that's how
wait.
you end up
If
wrong.
this-
It
if
may
it-
very well be the case that the
if
scenario that
this-
you're describing
Come
does
on,
happen,
Roy.
and if that's the case, then I wouldn't expect an employer to act any other way.
So okay, cool, great. So if this is not a relevant point, then why did she bring this up as a relevant point?
I like how almost every other person in the panel understood what I was saying and maybe disagreed with what I was saying, but at least understood it versus you who keep saying like, oh no, you think a person like should like hired OnlyFans when it's like, hey, no, like what I'm trying to say is that there are different standards for men and women when it comes to like sex. That's all I was trying to say. And yet you
Should
keep
there
trying
not
to
be
strong.
different standards for people who are different?
No,
But
that's
do you
Men
that's
and
a
women
good
are
question.
different,
Okay.
so they are held to different standards because
Yeah.
of the objective differences between male and female sexuality.
Bingo.
Yeah, and we
What
can
would you say to
have
that?
we can
Bingo.
have this conversation right now. I just want to point out that I appreciate you guys actually bringing that to
boy,
the
you don't
conversation and
sit
trying to strong
down,
on
boy.
me over and over again.
Okay,
Well,
so
that
what
was
would
straw
your
man.
response be to that?
Would two different so just to
Women
make
and
sure.
men are treated differently because of the objective differences between men and women, especially in regards to their
How is the patriarchy holding
Murder,
women down? I'm still
murder,
waiting.
murder,
Oh yeah, let's come back to that.
Yeah, why are
let
we
me
using
hold
the
on?
word
Let me
patriarchy
redirect.
like it's a
let me
bad
redirect
word?
the
How is
conversation.
it holding
Based
down?
word.
Okay,
Okay,
it
wait,
hasn't been
So
like
hold on.
holding
I
society
got a
together.
Men
couple
invented
questions.
OnlyFans.
I did want to hear Pixie's
Hold on.
response to that.
Hold on. I got a couple questions here. Let me try to get through them, and we'll have a little back and forth. Okay, so under the patriarchy, are women oppressed?
Yes.
Are men the oppressors?
They're not all
Jesus.
Don't
use the words.
donated $300. Those two feminists are so far gone. Life has consequences. It's called reality. And you two need a clear dose of it. Employers want morally sound employees. News flash doing of /sex isn't moral. Also, can you two form a valid argument instead of rambling?
Thank you, Bads EXE. I think that's
Wait, can
Victor.
I respond to the donor real quick?
Yeah.
Something that's interesting to me is that, like, I think that there is a valid conversation to be had about doing employment background checks. However, not hiring somebody because they do OnlyFans. You could argue that, hey, I think the corporation should take a stand and say we don't police our individual employees' backgrounds. Now, you can say that's unreasonable. However, when corporations turn that same lens and they get very woke about employees, you conservative people get really upset about that. For instance, if 10 years ago you tweeted shit about being a Nazi or whatever, or you tweeted edgy jokes, you guys would stand up and you go, hold on, corporations shouldn't be holding employees accountable for stuff they said on their Twitter 10 years ago. But it sounds like if somebody found an OnlyFans you did 10 years ago, you'd be saying, well, it's totally fair game to make it so that that person can't work at that
Yeah,
company.
doing OnlyFans is
I
worse
didn't
than
say-
saying
wait,
That's not a fair. That's not a fair
Okay,
argument.
one at a
Hey,
time. Let's go.
big boy,
Okay,
this
let me
big
just say
boy
mine real quick.
People
Because
are
it's
getting
easy.
fired from their jobs for saying something is gay on Twitter 10 years ago, or
Sure.
like
Yeah.
making
But
making a
the reason-
mildly
but hold on,
homophobic
but
joke.
hold on, but we said
That's
earlier-
a totally different thing than
No,
like
no, no,
espousing
no.
National Socialism.
No,
or
it's
something.
actually totally not. Because what if it is the case that your salesman is doing business with another company, and let's say that the person that they're interfacing with is gay, they find out that your salesperson tweeted homophobic stuff 10 years years ago, and now you've got like a blue chip company that doesn't want to do business with you because you hire people that have been homophobic. They could use the exact same argument that you used about not hiring the OnlyFans people. Now, hold on. To be clear, I'm not saying that we should fire all those people. I'm just saying that back in my day, okay, we didn't fucking peruse all the online history of everybody to decide who gets hired and who's not. I think that if you're not on the clock, then the fucking employer shouldn't have anything to do with your shit. But it is interesting that we were very selective about what we want policed in a person's history.
And that's how you
This goes back to the original point that I was making earlier in the conversation about homosexuality contributes to the degeneracy of society. I want to live in a society where you can joke about something being gay online.
Sure, but it could be a come on. I'm saying gay, but it could be like a racist joke. It could be a bigoted joke. It could be a whatever edgy joke. It could be any type of thing, right?
Is that TOS? Is it TOS?
What
to say that?
Yo,
I don't know, but your podcast is going
We're
down
in California,
tonight.
don't worry.
Just tell us when the stream goes down and move the remote.
Sure. Okay.
Hold on. I think that broadly speaking, I think we should probably say corporations. We need to stop the culture of corporations digging into employment history just because like people on Twitter get really mad at like this guy did this thing 5 or 10 years ago. Whether it's like making a sexist joke or doing OnlyFans.
Okay,
that would be my personal.
Fair
opinion.
enough. We gotta move away from that. I want to bring it back to you guys. Okay, so feminists posit that women are oppressed. You said yes. Do you think women are oppressed
I do believe women are oppressed. Yes.
here in the U.S.?
Yes. Although
Say
I
it,
think
please.
I had
First straight answer we got all night.
Different definitions of patriarchy, because I would say that patriarchy broadly refers to the state of the world. I'm really not interested in saying like blaming specific actors or genders or sexes and this is like no, I think that's completely counterproductive. I think you can analyze the
foul.
world
You got hit with a foul, bro.
Seeing the detrimental effects of that. And if you see an issue, you can address it. I don't think we need to get into this
That's
blame
fine.
game.
Okay.
Where do the positive
hold on.
aspects of patriarchy weigh into this conversation?
Let me
I know John Doyle's ready to sound off on that, but
monumental.
let's stay here for a moment.
Didn't men create OnlyFans for these women to be angry
Exactly.
about?
Exactly. Hey guys, everybody, pause.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Let's maintain this.
Losing control.
Please, I have just like a little back and forth. I want to have a little back and forth on this. Please allow me to just get through it. Okay. Are men the oppressors?
Men and women are the oppressors. Why are you laughing? It's true. You don't think women hate?
Are men the oppressors? Because if women are the oppressed, certainly then men must be the oppressors. Is that true?
No, I don't. I think it's too complicated to
Fair
say
enough.
one gender
Okay.
or the other.
But so you both agreed that women are oppressed.
Why you pal like that, though, cuz?
You're women. Are you oppressed?
Pal like that, though, cuz?
Yes.
Your
Into
rep
the
got
mic,
bloody, bro.
Yes.
How are you as a straight white woman
Hold
oppressed in
Hold on.
America?
Before you answer
Refs
that, are
take
you
the
oppressed
elbows
as a woman?
too, bro.
Yes, I would say belonging
The
to
ref
like
take the
identifying
elbow
being a woman.
too,
Yes,
bruh.
that puts you at a disadvantage socially because of the social biases we've been discussing earlier on the panel.
Do you think that's why no one has asked
Bro,
you out?
Mary,
Hey
shut
guys,
the fuck up.
hey guys, everybody, Brian's trying to get
You're
something.
interfering with the split farming. Come on.
Okay. How are you oppressed?
There's been countless and countless times, whether it be in academia, podcast, whatever, where I say something and people say like she's a dumb bitch, or in academia it's more like
That's not an example of your oppression.
well, if people are literally saying that, but then when it comes to a man saying the exact same thing I said, being like, oh, that was actually a very intelligent point, well, then they are degenerating me, or then they...
Are you talking about double standards? Because there's plenty of...
That's a form of oppression. You don't think double standards is a
There's
form
some
of
that
oppression?
benefit men.
Using the
There's
word
some
How are you
oppression
defining
connotes themes
oppression?
of slavery and genocide, and some guy calling you a dumb bitch for accurately.
Oh my
I don't know,
God,
being
a
dumb
form of
bitch, and
oppression.
wait a minute, this is literally
Have you ever
oppression.
hung out in like a
See,
Call of Duty,
Holy
like
shit.
Call of
If you
Duty
don't wanna
2?
get
This is the problem.
Not being able to get a job
You have
because...
conversations
whoa,
like this,
whoa.
and you participate in conversations like this, and then feminists will literally think to themselves, why has every major religion in society imposed like borderline draconian rules on our behavior? And it's like, maybe this lends some credibility to that thing. I mean, women don't aspire to agency. This is the problem with women are oppressed. Can women be oppressed if they're not like tied down somewhere? You guys don't aspire to agency the way that men do. You are not fundamentally trying to lead, trying to do things like that. You think you are because you respond to the media and to society, putting that idea in your head. But if that were not the case, you go back
I think
to like
Brian
the
wants you to
21st
end your
century.
little soy rant.
No, it's
No,
fine.
I was enjoying
Literally
that.
everything...
That rant was
everything you
soy
have
free.
said...
You called it a
people-
soy rant because he was making good
That
points.
rant was
No.
soy-free.
Everything you have literally said are the same arguments people have used against black people in like the 60s.
Now we're going to the black crowd.
Oh my fucking god. 100%.
Oh, black people, no! Not the black people.
True. Holy Holy
shut the fuck
shit.
up. Shut the fuck up.
Okay,
Shut the fuck up.
if you're gonna tell me to shut the fuck up, actually say something
Okay, yeah, I'm
afterwards.
gonna say
Otherwise,
something
you look
afterwards.
empty.
You've been yelling this entire time, so I haven't been able to say anything afterwards. You're not gonna sit here and fucking say that you being a whore is anywhere near the oppression that other groups, like black people or whatever, have faced.
You are complete the point.
No,
right
you're
over
saying
your
they're
head.
calling me a dumb bitch. I'm so
No.
oppressed.
I'm
If you
saying
wanna get
he's
called a dumb
saying.
bitch, then don't act like a dumb
Yo,
bitch.
chill.
No, what I'm saying,
Right.
first of all, you guys took
Yo,
my point,
Lakers coming
completely
back,
fucking
bro.
twisted it.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing like oppression
I thought
Olympics here.
Lakers
No,
were
the
But
point that I was trying to make
What about
is
black
that
people?
okay, the
black
point that I was
people?
trying to make is that people look at my gender
shit
and,
on
you know, have limited my opportunities when it comes to, like, let's say careers.
Look
or
at
when it
your
comes to
retardation.
Billy, go ahead.
No, they don't.
Into the mic.
They
Into
don't
the
have
mic.
your
You have a
retardation.
greater advantage being a woman today. Do you? I think.
Into the mic.
Sorry. I think we should list. I think if we asked men and women at this table to list off how they're oppressed in today's society, then men could come up with a much bigger list.
I got one.
On God.
I
got
guarantee
one.
not
I
a
got one.
single woman has done any landscaping in the hot
So Brian,
sun
you
to
think that
survive
you're like
on this
men are
panel.
oppressed? And you would say you're oppressed
Absolutely.
That's
as a man?
oppression.
I
Absolutely.
think. Well,
By
I think
women.
if we're gonna play the oppression game, men. in
I don't want
the
to play
US
that game.
Today,
If you want to play that game, I
well, I'm
guess we can
prepared to
get
play
into
it.
Let's play it.
Men are more oppressed than women.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, and not only today, but historically too.
In some ways, sure. Like if you want
Can
to
you
talk about like
men
male
are scared to even
disposability-
speak to women.
If you want to
What-
talk about
what-
male
Women are scared to
disposability,
speak to
men
men.
having
No,
like
that have to do with
climbing rates of
anything.
like suicide, I'm gonna be with you.
What percentage
On
of
those, I won't even disagree with you.
what percentage of people that are homeless are men?
Probably the majority, no?
3 and 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
Where
vast
does the
majority
where
of
does the
negative
matriarchy fit
outcomes-
into that oppression? Is that like?
Well, that's a really simple one. How long do you think a homeless woman would make it?
I
She's
think that
more likely
women,
to
I
get
agree
into,
with you, but I think a lot of women will
Sex
rather
trafficking?
go end up on their back than end up on the streets.
That would rather what?
Women
End up
are
on their
more,
back than end up on the streets.
Sure, but
Who do you
I
think
mean,
is,
like
like,
even
in a
even
more
ignoring
vulnerable
hold on,
place?
even ignoring that, I'm just saying that like there's a lot of questions that we ask in terms of like, and the oppression Olympics thing is weird. To be clear, because I'm drawing my own, so
Oh my
patriarchy arguably
God.
oppresses and raises up both men and women in different ways, right? But when we ask questions
10
like, well, who's more
seconds.
homeless? Men can survive being homeless because we have a lot of biological advantages and because we're not subject to violence from other men in the same types of ways that women are, right?
Right.
When, for instance, when women talk about, or when red pillars say, you need a man to protect you from who? From other men, right? Because that's typically the people that are
Come
abusing or
on,
violating
Austin,
other women. So
you
if you
got-
ask that question, who's
you
more likely to be
gotta
homeless?
show-
It's probably going to be men, of course,
show.
like 98%. But
So-
women are going to make a homeless.
Fair
person.
point, but I
Yeah.
want to add on to that because
Sure.
she's saying that the patriarchy, like disproportionately affects women in a negative way, and it doesn't affect men in a negative way. But then where does
The
homelessness
reason,
come into play?
so the reason why I don't like to use negative is because patriarchy is just like
I don't go based off her
Sure,
example.
I
That's what I'm
understand.
saying.
I understand. Patriarchy is like a way that society is structured. It's enforced by everybody because in some ways men and women benefit from it. In some ways men and women hurt from it. But there are
Jamal Murray got
the
30,
way that we
bruh.
suffer
It's
under
not
it,
even the
arguably,
third
is
quarter yet,
subjective in whether or not it's good or bad. So, for instance, like I imagine on this side of the table, people would say that women being relegated to relatively narrow roles and how they can participate in the house and society, they consider that a good thing. Feminists traditionally would say, well, women being relegated to narrow roles in the house would be a bad thing, right? So it's hard to say that like is patriarchy good or bad. It's just like a form of organizing society, the same way that a matriarchy would be, the same way egalitarian would be. There's going to be pros and cons to every type of organization.
I want some motherfucking pussy, man. God damn. Can a nigga get some pussy?
Woman demands sandwich maker change the gloves she is wearing. The sandwich maker did not.
Here's what I have an issue with, and it just dawned on me. Watch this. Watch. Watch. Let this go to the scene of the cars. Bang. Right there. Jeep. 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 Why are they all fucking Jeeps? Why are they all Jeeps? This is a Gladiator.
Jeep,
This is
Jeep,
a Wrangler.
Jeep.
Four-door Wrangler. They're all
Oh. Bro, what?
Bro, you got a napkin? You got a napkin?
In Hiroshima tonight.
Today, a senior administration official tells ABC News that President Biden has informed the G7 allies here that the United States has agreed to allow Ukrainian pilots to begin training to fly American-made F-16 fighter jets. This move represents a major reversal for Biden and a wish fulfilled for Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who has pleaded for F-16s for months.
We have artillery. Yes. Thank you. We have it. Is it enough? Honestly, not really.
The F-16, the backbone of the U.S. air fleet, can travel twice the speed of sound, drop bombs on ground targets, and fire air-to-air missiles. Ukraine believes these planes provide a distinct advantage in the skies, enabling them to shoot down incoming cruise missiles and fighter jets, fending off Russia's punishing air assaults. But up till now, providing F-16s has been a red line for President Biden, reluctant to provoke an unpredictable escalation from Russia. Still, in a February...
Okay.
Sidewalk. Go with the stream.
I want to bring you some breaking news.
Well, it turns out that this woman who...
Yeah, wow.
Miss, would you mind?
What the fuck are you doing, man?
Get out of the neighborhood. Get more,
The national debt hits a new record of 31 trillion, and there's no end in sight. Inflation will continue to rise, and even with these Fed interest rate hikes, inflation is entrenched in the economy. And neither party has the political willpower to cut spending, so you will see the debt continue to rise as inflation rises.
Oh shit, he talking.
Partnering with Partnering with Damon John since appearing on Shark Tank has been a nightmare. I haven't even shared a quarter of how we went from this to this. I want to bring you guys up to speed on how we got here. After we taped Shark Tank, but before our episode aired, Damon John called us and he said that we should set up a website to capture all of the sales that would come in the night that the show aired. He told us he had an internet genius who would be able to set up our site for us. This internet genius, as Damon called him, had also previously been on Shark Tank, and Damon partnered with him. Here's an email from Damon just telling us he wanted us to meet Nate in person. Our first call with Nate was super quick. It was just him saying, you know, he's an expert in websites and he was going to set up our website. He went ahead, he set up our website, he set up a business bank account, he set up all the merchant accounts that the sales from the website will go to. Nate was the only signer on that account. Here's the email from...
We depress. Who questions guy of stolen valor while he's out having a few drinks with his buddies?
Since when did you serve in the military, in the Marine Corps?
Jesse, a few more reps and...
If the target of a phrase considers it...
This is why...
Get out right now.
This photo was taken in the lobby of Tower Bank. If you don't know about Tower Bank, it's one of the largest banks in the country of Panama. and they are going pro Bitcoin. Obviously, that's their bank right in the Bitcoin rocket. They are allowing on-ramping and off-ramping from crypto exchanges up to $5,000, which is a big move because pretty much every bank until this point has restricted all crypto. And if you
I fell on my face, got up on my own. I just let this story up.
I just live on my face. And I go back to the hood, then I go back to the hood.
What's Indian army pay and training like? India has the second largest military force in the world and the largest volunteer.
What a walking dead boy.
When your Indian boyfriend is more invested in your culture than you.
It is said that a tiger does not eat its own cubs.
So all of these words start with the letter F. A small
National Security Council has raised
3个国家的代表签署联合声明，沙伊双方达成了重要的协议，宣布恢复两国的外交关系。我认为这是对话的胜利，是。和平的胜利。这个协议有为目前动荡不安的世界
Turbo, man.
一好的消息。我觉得这份协议，它向世界传递了非常明确的信号。第一，这个世界不是仅仅有不可能的问题，还有很多事关和平、涉及民生的问题，需要引起各方的关注，需要当事方及时的加以妥善的处理。第二个信号，那就是不管这个问题多复杂，挑战多尖锐，但只要
Young Chinese boy, how old are you?
Okay, man, you know what? Listen.
They were trying to take his bike.
That's a hat.
Wise men speak.
Room like Harry Potter.
Yeah. Pitbulls, everything is here.
Hey guys, so this is Everything I Ate at 7-Eleven in Japan for the...
What did you think of your team's ability to withstand Florida State's impressive comeback?
You get the impressive comeback for the bring it back, you know? Hold the penis. The wee wee go bleed. Hardcore music, hardcore highlight, hardcore everything. Bring it back to it.
Tonight, desperate for weapons, Ukraine is pounding the table for more weapons and ammunition. And tonight, we can tell you that one of Europe's largest ammunition manufacturers, a weapons provider in Ukraine, says it cannot expand its biggest factory in central Norway because of TikTok.
Dude, she can't even say it with a straight face.
Tells the Financial Times that the company was told that a data center, where TikTok is reportedly the main customer, is using all the surplus energy in the region, so they don't have enough energy to make more ammo for Ukraine.
Whatever, dude.
Cat go, the cat go meow. The cat go meow.
Are you fuck?
Did you just came out of the cave? Is this the first time?
You must continue your journey.
She made fun of me for getting Capri Suns, and then
Scallion oil is my secret ingredient for cooking on the pan, or even using it on the sauce. All you do is just
Bring me playoff Jimmy. Bring me so-called Michael Jordan.
Bring me Jimmy Jim Jims, Slim Jim Butler.
He's got it again. Great defending. What a three! That was terrific. That was. They kept him in the game. 43 for Kyrie. The thing I like.
Do you guys know about this school?
World Inflation 2023. World Inflation 2023.
Tell me to get out of space. I got you, sir.
Bro, you know I'm about to punch this W real quick, bro. You know. Send the turbos. Send the back turbos. What a weird life, bro. They come and they go. That ow, it hit my ear. Mackenzie Dern. You the whoa! Boom.
right? Even patriarchy in some ways is incredibly beneficial to how society is arranged. It makes like figuring out gender roles and households and everything incredibly fucking simple. And it gives really clear guidelines for how men are supposed to act and how women are supposed to act. That's like a benefit. But in some ways it's a negative.
Destiny arguing for patriarchy.
Well,
right
but
now?
in some
Let's
ways
go.
it's a negative because you might have an incredibly talented pool of women that could be contributing to society in really positive ways that are now basically relegated to being barefoot and pregnant in their homes all the time because we don't really want their contributions, right? The reason why I think that our society has succeeded more in the West than it did in any other place in the world is to some extent because we opened the floodgates to allow any type of person to have a conversation. And that's why podcasts like this or Fresh and Fit, you're getting people from fucking that have traveled to Saudi Arabia and Dubai coming back and arguing with black women and Hispanic women and men of all sorts of different backgrounds and religions are all coming together having these conversations. They're not doing that in fucking Saudi Arabia. They're not doing that in fucking Iran. They're not even doing that in a lot of places in Europe. That's happening in the United States of America. And I think it's largely because we've tried to break
dinner.
We are trying to force the idea that aesthetic beauty is a political thing. I think, you know, what about beauty is in the eye of the beholder? We've kind of gotten rid of that because there are people that certainly are attractive and overweight. There are people that are skinny and grotesque. I think the ideal is still that bodies that are healthy and thin are more attractive to people. That is usually the case. And I people might get angry at that when I say that, but that is the case, you know? People may not like that, but that's okay. It doesn't mean that there aren't attractive fat people. It doesn't mean there aren't gross skinny meth heads. It just means that, like, fat phobia isn't real. Some people are dicks. Some people are dicks, and they're pieces of shit to people that are fat or that are whatever, and those people suck. But also, calling yourself a warrior because you're fat is also stupid. That's also pretty dumb. People in this country used to have personalities. They did. I'm old enough to remember. And as those personalities became these quizzes, people now just identify by what grade on the scale they are of how racist they are or how fat accepting or how people used to have personalities, distinct, interesting, nuanced personalities that came from different experiences that they didn't share with everybody. But because technology's flattened us all and culture has become this hellish landscape of constant self-reflection and mediation on how I should behave and what should I, oh my God, what scale am I fat phobic? There was a fat woman on the plane next to me, but I didn't hit her. What does that mean? But then, you know, I did make a face, but I made it to myself. Like, I don't even understand here what exactly people are supposed to get out of this stuff. What are people supposed to get out of it? But the Ozempic does prove that everybody kind of wants to lose weight. Most people want to lose weight. People are not happy being fat. Nobody's really happy being fat. There are people that are okay with it. They go, okay. It's like most people are not happy being drunks either. Most people are not really happy being a drunk. It doesn't mean that. Now, most people, they seem like they're happy because you only see them when they're drunk. But if you see them the next morning or sometime the next day, if you see them trying to get the keys out of their pocket to get into a car, and they're just like, ugh, they're not happy. People that are in the midst of a drug addiction are not happy. So anything that throws your life out of balance, you're not really happy. There are a lot of people that are trying to make it in vogue to be fat, or that it's but Ozempic proves, and a lot of things prove, that people would like to lose weight if they could. This is a fact. And the fat phobia community and the fat activist community doesn't want to hear that, but those people have invented jobs for themselves. That's not a job. Being fat's not a job. You invented a job. I don't get paid because I'm overweight. I get paid to do this. I mean, it's not a job. They invented a job. And by the way, on that, I mean, to get paid for eating, like the idea that you're just sitting there eating and you're like, I'm going to be an activist, and that this society at this point is so broken that they fall for it. Hey, get your bag. Well, get a few bags. Get the one out of the drive-thru and then get the money as well. But that's what we're doing here. These are people that have invented jobs. The person who is writing the fat phobic quiz should be living in a tent. It's a fact. They should be living in a tent. The natural order of things might be a big tent, but they should be living in a tent. It's not a skill, but they've invented a job. This is an economy where we're hemorrhaging things for people to do. There's not enough things for people to do. So the people that just go, let me make a living being aggressively and annoyingly fat, and let me write quizzes asking people how comfortable they are with my girth, are getting paid. They have a livelihood. That is a livelihood for these people now. You know? I just, what do you want me to say about it? I'm just like, I'd like Meghan Markle better if she was fat, personally. Like if Prince Harry married a fat black chick, I would like her more. I trust her more. That's just what I'm saying. What question on the quiz is that? What's wrong? Why are they throwing this doctor out for live streaming operations? I don't like this at all. There's a plastic surgeon, and they're trying to they take her license, or they're trying to take her license because she went viral on TikTok, and she may have her medical license revoked. Can we play one of her TikToks?
Yeah. It's this woman in Ohio. It's Dr. Catherine Raw.
Yeah, well, she's been in private practice in Ohio since 2010, and she operated out of Roxy Plastic Surgery. If you're going to a place called Roxy Plastic Surgery, if that's the name, your fucking surgeon's gonna have a little pizzazz. And if you don't like it, on social media, Graw is better known as Dr. Roxy, the surgeon who posts behind-the-scenes videos of her. But that's fun. I want to see the skin, right? I want to see a little neck fat in the spit cup or whatever. I want to see that. And people don't like. She's a plastic surgeon. Let her show people the behind-the-scenes of what it's like when people alter their bodies. I don't see anything inherently wrong with that. Has she? Let's watch some of these things that she's done that are supposedly so horrible. Here we go.
So these are all like advertisements too.
Okay. Well, she's trying to get her back. She's trying to get that money.
Trying to get that money?
Yeah.
Trying to get that money.
She puts patients' private info on her public social media, but none of them are identifiable. But 3 of them are suing. Well, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Docs are fake tits? I'm obsessed with social media. It's sad. Lauren Boebert's getting divorced, which is very sad to me because, I thought they were going to make it. And, Lauren Boebert and her husband represent the meth part of Colorado. And I think she owns a bar called Shooters or something, or used to work there, where people, the girls walk around. It's like Hooters, but they have guns. And Lauren Boebert and her husband, and this came as a shock to me because I did think they were going to make it, because she kind of has that Sarah Palin, like, white trash, where you'd think they would stick it out. But I guess that doesn't work, right? It's sad because this is like, they're a fun couple. Like, they're constantly, like, he's constantly being accused of, like, trying to run over process servers with his truck, and they got problems. The cops are always there, right? Like, she goes, Boebert says, I have been faithful in my marriage and I believe strongly in marriage, which makes and these are the people that are always yelling about the gay people ruining their lives and that they can't get it together and it's the Christian nation and da-da-da-da-da. And, unfortunately now they're going to have to dissolve this godly union. This godly union between Lauren Boebert and her husband, Jason or something. I forget his name.
Jason with a Y.
She goes, this is truly about irreconcilable differences. She will not comment further on the divorce, quote, out of respect for our children, I will continue to work hard to represent the people of Colorado's 3rd Congressional District. So this is like the person who'll be like, gay people can't get married because they're ruining the institution of marriage, but me and my meth head husband can't figure it out, And again, this woman probably has a 90 IQ, right? This is the thing that the conservatives do a lot. They pick someone that is kind of just this is like like Meghan Markle's way above this woman in terms of running a scam. At least Meghan Markle got out of the country, except she's the idiot who came back. But this woman is like, the conservatives found her at a Waffle House somewhere and said, here, just, you just put the gun in the air, take the tits out, and now you can be in Congress. But she's fun, quote, Jason Boebert was apparently blindsided when he was served divorce papers last month and set his dogs on the server. According to court documents, he was allegedly, quote, drinking a tall glass of beer and cleaning a gun that was sitting on a table. Man, these people are really they're really out of central casting, huh? Yeah, I'm not even Yellowstone. These people don't own land. You nuts? Yellowstone's like, Kevin Costner's like a CEO, and he's like running a whole thing. And by the way, people that are dressing like the people in Yellowstone, please stop. Like, that's a trend now. I've seen that. Like, I've read about that. That like people are like LARPing as cowboys. It's disgusting. He was drinking a tall glass of beer, cleaning a gun that was sitting on a table when he was handed the dissolution of marriage papers. Well, that's sad. He started yelling and using profanities and told me that I was trespassing, that he was calling the sheriff's office. I told him I was leaving the documents on the chair outside the door. He closed the door and let the dogs out. Who let the dogs out? Jason Boebert. Lauren and Jason Boebert met when she was 16 and have 4 children together. Interesting. Well, in a text message statement to the Daily Beast, Jason said the dogs were never a threat to the server and that he was upset by the unannounced visit. Well, this is a good Christian family that has had some problems, and that saddens me. It saddens me because, if these kids can't make it, what hope do the rest of us have? Yeah, they're fun though. I like her because she's like a less intellectual Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, she's like not as bright. It seems like she's not as as much of a brain as Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. She's for people who Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, the words are too big. They bring out Lauren Boebert and she just comes out with the gun and the tits and everybody's like, woo! And it's sad that her and her husband can't get it together.
Alright, y'all, I'm gonna call it a night. Y'all take it easy. Peace.